years, you know, just for the volume of business that we do there. You know, we've sold approximately 30,000 videos since we put them on sale there. So the community was hungry for videos.
Well, on the other hand, there are obviously law enforcement people who think that they have the backing of the community in prosecuting you. And indeed, the difference between you and other people in the area of sexual material is that you've always been out front, not in the back room. And there may be folks who are willing to buy, but wouldn't feel in a jury context that they can let those values influence what they do.
Well, you know, one of the greatest rights that any nation can afford its people is the right to be left alone. And I think that consenting adults today feel that what they do in the privacy of their own home, what they're reading or viewing material is their own personal business. Now, I don't have a problem with moral values. It's just when you start trying to impose them on other people, or I part company. But what I'm really trying to say is that people are changing in that sense, that they are more independent and more free thinkers in terms of who has the right to consume what.
Well, do you think then that law enforcement is totally out of touch with the mores and values of present-day Cincinnati?
Not only do I think law enforcement is out of touch, but I think that at some point the Supreme Court is going to have to revisit the Miller case in 1973, because that was just atrocious, you know, leaving it up to individual communities to set their own standards, because you've now got publishers and producers in New York and Los Angeles trying to second guess what reading habits are in Cincinnati.
Now, you've already raised that issue before the trial judge, and he said no, but your assumption is if there's a bad result here, that's an issue that may go to the Supreme Court.
It's very possible. We're prepared to appeal it all the way. This case is costing us a lot of money.
You can't take the political slant on this out of the picture either, because there was a lot of pressure put on the prosecutor.
Came out of, like, ran by Charlie Keating, you know. I mean,
there's some big political contributors there.
It's these kind of groups that Jimmy's talking about that were really putting a lot of pressure.
It does strike me that most of the politicians I know do know how to count votes, and obviously the assessment of some in power in Cincinnati is that the local citizenry wants to be both aggressive against you, both civilly and criminally. Your feeling is that they've misread the feeling of the population?
Yes, because we brought in a jury consultant firm that is the best in the country.
Let me ask you about that. One of the things we anticipate that will be put in evidence at your trial is the jury is going to see some of the films and videos that were stocked in the store.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you showed those to folks who were...
Yeah, there's a total of 15 that have been charged, and the jury, it's a total of 40 hours. The jury will have to watch all of them. I think that was the biggest mistake the prosecution made, because it would have been better to picked one video, because by the time a jury of 12 sit through 40 hours, they're going to be pretty much desensitized as to what they
Because most of this stuff, shall we say, is fairly vivid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, vivid.
Vivid. Do you agree with your brother that was a bad strategic judgment by prosecutors, that they're overdoing it by showing that much material?
Well, I think they made a lot of mistakes, you know, and it'll come out during the course of the trial. But hopefully, you know, we'll get a fair trial this time. We didn't in the first one 23 years ago, but it looks like we got a fair judge this time.
Now, in terms of the evidence that comes in, it's your view that jurors in Cincinnati from this community are going to have a different view of the material, and probably you think it's to your advantage that they see the actual work.
Yes, and I have read all of the reports that have come in from the consultants over the last year, who they have sent out volumes of questionnaires within the community, and it really...
What kind of questions are people asked?
Oh, they're asked you know, do you feel you should be able to read or view what you want to in the privacy of your own home? How do you feel about sex between the same-sex people? Do you feel you should have the right to purchase an X-rated video?
And their opinion on the store opening in Cincinnati and...
Yeah.
What's been the cause of the change?
Well, I think what's happened is, don't get me wrong, Cincinnati still remains a rock bed of conservatism. You know,
ran 100% by
But
Republicans.
it's X-rated conservatism.
You know, you realize that in Cincinnati, every judge on the bench is Republican.
You can't find a Democrat in Hamilton County.
But you think Republicans are more sexually open now than they were 20 years ago?
But
Let me ask you to hold on to the answer to that question, and that way the Republicans will be sure to stay tuned and come back and see what they have to say about sex, Republicanism, maybe about the Democrats too. But we got to take a break. Be right back. Wasn't long, because sooner or later, controversy found Larry Flynt. Prosecutors are claiming that an unknown 14-year-old boy illegally purchased adult videos at the shop. We left at the break with a discussion of Republicanism and sexuality. It isn't that we're picking on Republicans, but one of the issues here is whether sexual mores have changed or attitudes about what should be available sexually to people in Cincinnati over the last 20 years. And Larry Flynt, you were suggesting that even though it remains a conservative community, it's now conservatism with an open attitude towards sexuality?
Yes, I definitely feel that way. You know, all you got to do is just spend a little time in the city to know that there's been a big change, you know, in the last 20-odd years. But, you know, speaking of
what do you have to be doing in the city to get a feel for this new set of attitudes? I mean, is it just walking the streets or going and looking at videos and magazines?
It's the volume of business that we've done there in the last year and a half and the support that we've gotten from the local community.
We do an enormous volume, but not only you know, the nightlife in the city, the attitude of the people, it's a much different atmosphere than when I went to trial there in '77. You know,
let me take a second and mention, before I direct us towards an issue we mentioned coming back from the break, that in a few moments we're going to be taking your calls. This is your opportunity to ask Larry Flynt any question you want about sexuality, the First Amendment, at 1-877-LIVE-COURT-TV, 1-877-548-3288. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Larry, but I wanted the viewers to know that.
I wanted to address the question on a 14-year that allegedly made the purchase. Our corporate, we have more stores than just Cincinnati. We have one on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. But our corporate policy is anyone who looks under 30 is carded. We're not interested in selling these materials to minors.
And it was a sting operation.
Because, in fact, one of the charges here is... let me set it up for the viewers who don't know. One of the charges here is that you distributed to a juvenile.
Yeah, that we sold to a juvenile.
Right.
But our arguing is that it was part of a setup, a police sting operation, where they paid the kid to come in there with a fake ID and make a purchase.
And also there have been some things that have emerged.
And I think when this comes out at trial, it's not going to sit very well with the jury.
This kid has worked for the Cincinnati Police Department and the county prosecutor's office for over 2 years. I've seen documentation where they've used him over 50 times. They give him somewhere between 50 and 100 bucks every pop he made, where it'd be a carry-out bar.
And he has a beard and is said not to look 14.
He's 17.
He looks like a fullback for the Bengals.
It is. Now, one of the things, I keep coming back to this sense about attitudes in Cincinnati. Is it likely then that there's a divided set of views, a divided community?
Well, you're talking about 2 generations later, you know. I think the whole country's changed a little bit. Certainly Cincinnati's changed in the past 23 years.
If what our jury consultants found out for us is true, we've got about 70% support on the issues when it really comes down to, you know, to voting. If that translates to the jury pool, you know, we should be okay.
Now, I know lawyers tend
and I would consider a hung jury a victory.
But
I know lawyers tend to be conservative. Your lawyer has
I'm in Cincinnati a lot, and I see older, younger, conservative people come in, and they say, well, we might not necessarily like what Larry Flynt does, but we support the right for him to be here.
Now, your lawyer has said that while he goes all out and he supports you, he disagrees with your assessment of how much change there's been in this community. Why do you think he has a different sense?
Well, which one of the lawyers? You're talking about the local lawyer?
Yes.
Cincinnati, Lou Serkin?
Yes, Serkin. He's said publicly that he is not totally in agreement with your assessment of what the community sense is in Cincinnati.
I don't. He maybe just didn't want to go out on a wire.
He's just being conservative lawyer.
Yeah,
okay.
I would say that's probably maybe his feeling, but I got a feeling that he probably made that statement before we had did all the polling.
Let me ask you this: as a man who's spent his life talking to people about sex and sexuality, how confident are you that pollsters can elicit information honestly from folks about how they feel about sex, especially the juncture of sex and politics?
Well, no more confident, really, than anybody else, but he sure as hell looks a lot better, you know, than he did in 1977.
And you've been willing to put your liberty at stake to prove that. So
yes.
We're going to find out more about that, but first we want to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear what you want to say and ask Larry Flynt concerning his beliefs on the First Amendment, sexuality, Cincinnati, Republicans, or Ken Starr. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Flynt, publisher of Hustler magazine, along with his brother Jimmy. And he's not just back here at Court TV as our guest, but he's back on trial in Cincinnati, or he will be next week. 20 years ago, he was convicted on obscenity charges in Cincinnati. But as a man who does not know how to quit, he's gone back to Cincinnati, challenged the ordinances and the laws regarding the sale of sexually explicit material, and goes on trial again next week, faced with 15 counts of indictment and possibly jail time if he loses. Larry Flynt, a man who's been willing to put his principles on the line in causes that were at one time unpopular, but he now thinks that folks have changed their views in Cincinnati. We've invited you to call in and talk to him because he's an interesting man to have this discussion with. And the first person to take us up on that is John from Ohio. Are you there, John?
Yeah, how you doing?
How are you?
Pretty good. I live in Cincinnati myself, and I'd just like to tell Larry I wish him the best of luck. A lot of people around here appreciate what he's been doing, you know, putting up himself, you know, for the right. Cincinnati, for the most part, is a pretty dull town to live in. There isn't much to do around here. I'm 30 years old. You know, we'd like it to be a little bit more open and free, and it's not. You know, you have to travel out of Cincinnati to go to clubs and stuff like that. There's nothing local here in town within the city limits, and, you know, Larry's done a heck of a job, and, you know, personally, all the people, you know, in my generation, you know, don't have a problem with it. You know, it's the older people, you know. You know, he had a run-in with Lise. Lise is still here. You know.
Let me ask you this, John. You're only 30. It makes you a pup in this context. But do you have a sense from talking to other folks that there's been a change in attitudes over this 20-year period, or do you have a way of sensing that?
Well, you know, I mean, I work with a lot of, you know, older people and stuff, and, you know, a lot of them still feel the same way. But, you know, it's the younger people, you know, and the people my age, and you know, you know, that are happy this is happening, and, you know, and hope Larry wins this case, you know, because it'll open up Cincinnati to a lot more things. I mean, we have conventions and stuff that come into town, and these people had to go across the river or up, you know, up the road to, you know, go enjoy themselves and have a good time and stuff. And a lot of other states and cities that you can just do. It's no big deal.
Thank you very much, John. Larry, it sounds like one of the things you're counting on is just the passage of time, the demographics, that as young people grow up, they'll have different attitudes than their parents.
Well, I think that's true, but remember, the jury that I had 20 years ago, or probably some of them are dead or retired by now. I think the average age of that jury was 60.
Okay.
You know, so
there's two generations of passed.
So yeah, so we are going to be getting people 2 generations younger.
Well, we've got another caller, but before I invite her in, let me ask you this: are you counting on picking a jury, if you can, with younger folk? Would you generally think that a younger jury is better for you?
You know, as I told you, one of my attorneys involved in this case has tried over 70 obscenity cases in the last 20 years. And he's conflicted on that. He seems to feel that middle-aged people make better jurors than young people. Now, I would have thought, if you would ask me, that it would be the complete opposite. Of course, people helping us do a jury selection, a trial, are going to have a lot to do with this.
And of course, there are a lot of other factors besides.
And I'm going to have a lot to say about it too.
Well, and I mean, Jimmy is just as much at risk. I imagine you'll have a few words to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Cherry from Kansas, are you there? Cherry hung up on us. I hope she didn't. Cherry is gone, I guess. Dave from Pennsylvania, are you there? Dave's gone too. While we're waiting to see if we've got any callers left, we may have had a little disconnect. Do you have a feeling, Jimmy, about the age issue? Do you?
Well, you know, I've heard it both ways, but like Larry said, the lawyers that have been trying these cases over the last 20 years find that some of the older jurors make better jurors. But I would have to lean towards the youth myself.
Okay. Jason from Pennsylvania, are you there?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Jason.
Hi there.
Did you have a question for Larry Flynt or his brother?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how they felt about, say, the government with, you know, trying to come down on pornography and with the cigarette issues and, you know, the guns and, you know, everything like that, trying to take away our rights.
Well, pornography won't kill you. It sure won't rot your lungs. So I definitely think they got their priorities wrong there.
Yeah. And how did that happen?
Huh?
How did that happen?
Well, sex is so political, you know. The church has had its hand on our crotch for over 2,000 years, and the government's exceedingly moving in that direction. They feel if they can control our pleasure center, they can control us.
They condone violence, and they condone violence and condemn sex. It's completely opposite.
The world's upside down, but of course you're going to set it right in Cincinnati, or at least start the process. Yeah. Perry from Colorado, are you there? Perry?
Hello.
Hello? Perry from Colorado? I guess we don't have Perry from Colorado. Coy from California? Hello, Coy from California, are you there? Hello? I can barely hear Coy. Well, it looks like we're having a bit of a technical problem. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back... No, looks like they're solving the technical problem. We don't have to do that. Let me come back to this question of the values. It is interesting that we've had a great struggle over tobacco, and right now firearms is an issue that is very much in the forefront of political debate. And we have exhausted an awful lot of energy on the question of sexuality. Do you think there's a capacity in this case for some jurors to say, we don't like Flynt's principles, but we really think we ought to focus government effort elsewhere?
Yeah, you know, some people forget, especially the younger people, they don't remember that President Johnson in 1969 commissioned a study on pornography, wanting to know the effects it had on society, if it caused any antisocial behavior. And they assembled a panel of the largest groups of social scientists ever brought together to study this matter. And they spent, at that time, $2.5 million, which was a lot of money, in an 18-month investigation. And they came to the conclusion that there was no cause effect. But by that time, Johnson was out of office and Nixon was in office, and he dismissed the report, and it's been gathering dust ever since. So, you see, nobody wants to look at the scientific evidence because it's just not there.
Politics and sex, strange bedfellows. Glenn from Florida, are you with us? Glenn? Glenn from Florida. Glenn from Florida, are you there? Let's try Eric from North Carolina. See if North Carolina can get through. Eric, are you there? Eric. Well, Larry, obviously you've done something to the electricity and the electronics in the air. Let me come back to this question. You talked about history. I think people sometimes tend to think of contemporary America in isolation. Is it just 20th century America that's wrestled with the issue of pornography in politics, or is that...
You see, ever since the Victorian era, the rich and the privileged have always had their leather-bound editions of pornography. Well, what's happened today is the newsstand and the video store has become the poor man's art museum. And now, in this era of wireless communications and the internet and all of this, The genie's really out of the bottle.
So you think you're
know?
democratizing sexual access?
Right.
Okay.
The common person now has access.
Let me see if Jeff from Nebraska can get through. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, it's good to hear from you, Jeff. You've rescued us. We wanted to hear from the people. Tell us, do you have a question for Larry Flynt?
Yes, I do. I was first wanting to know if he's had a chance to watch or follow the Ginny Jones trial.
Have you seen any of the Ginny Jones trial?
I saw some of it.
Okay, my question is you're a big believer in the First Amendment, and I applaud you for that also. But I was wanting to know, like, if what you saw so far in the Ginny Jones trial is like proof that sometimes that can be taken too far. That's really my question.
Well, personally, I think they might possibly get a judgment in the Ginny Jones case. I don't think it will ever stand on appeal. I don't think the judicial system wants to set such a precedence where people can sue Jay Leno because of his monologue, because they were offended by it.
So you think it might happen, but it'd be bad law?
Yeah.
Swade from New York, are you there? Swade from New York. Swade, are you there? Sexuality has been a big part of the Ginny Jones case. In fact, maybe the pivotal question has been the issue of discussing intimate aspects of people's lives. Now, the kinds of conversations that are taking place now wouldn't probably have taken place on the Arthur Godfrey show when television began.
Yeah.
Is that part of the marker you're using to suggest that values and attitudes have changed?
Well, to live in a free society, you pay a price. And that price is toleration. You know, if we're going to be free, we have to tolerate things that we don't necessarily like. So there's a lot of give and take to protect this democracy that we live in. And what happened on the Ginny Jones show was very, very unfortunate. It was a very tragic thing. But I don't think that we can dump all our value systems because of that.
Now, some folks have suggested that you're cynical, but in fact, it sounds like you're a person who's optimistic. You think tolerance generally is growing in America, that we're more tolerant towards divergent views and attitudes?
I definitely think we're becoming more tolerant.
Okay. Charlie from Michigan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Good to hear from you, Charlie. Did you have a question for Larry Flynt?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead. He's listening. Charlie, go ahead.
Yes, I do. Larry, in the first place, Larry, I really admire all of the stuff you've done. I don't...
Charlie, turn the TV off. Don't listen to that. Just talk to us. Turn the TV down and talk to us.
I appreciate all the stuff you've done for us, Larry. The First Amendment right should be protected. I understand that. I've read your magazine and seen it. Some of it I think is too vulgar for my taste, but it definitely falls within the ideals of what certain people of this society should be able to see, to view, to have what they want. It is anything that is harmful to a minor, I disagree with. But all of the stuff that you've done, even though some of it is beyond my taste, I still agree that the right should be there. I don't want to see all of our rights subdued to the point where we cannot choose what we want and somebody else is making all the moral decisions for us.
Charlie, let me ask you this. Are you older than 30?
I'm 51.
Okay. Do you share Larry's view that in the Midwest, for example, attitudes about sexuality and openness towards it have changed in 20 years?
Yes, I believe so. I definitely believe so.
Okay. Ann from New York, are you there? Ann from New York, are you there?
Hello?
Ann, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm all right.
Why don't you go ahead if you have a question for Larry Flynt or his brother Jimmy?
No, I just wanted to call and tell Larry Flynt that I agree what he say.
Yes.
And about what he do with his books. And I wish him good luck.
Okay. I'm sure he appreciates that wish. Larry, let me ask you this. Gender is an issue when we talk about jury selection. And we know broad generalities don't help when you got to talk about specific people, but as a general feeling, Jimmy, how do you feel about women versus men as potential jurors?
Well, from what the lawyers have had over the years, that women make a fine juror, and as well as the men.
So the gender isn't a factor where you think...
Gender is not a factor.
Okay. Allison from Ohio, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Good afternoon, Allison.
Hello.
Hello. Do you have a question for Larry Flynt?
I have actually 2 comments for Larry.
Go ahead.
First off, he might want to reconsider that older generation are the ones who pulled his flyers out of their mailboxes back 20 years ago. And that we consider that this is just blatant disrespect. Larry Flynt only had to go 10 minutes away to be out of Hamilton County. But he wanted to make his point and be right in Hamilton County and rub it in people's faces, and they don't like that.
So you're betting that he's going to face a more hostile jury and a more hostile environment than he thinks?
Oh, yeah, we have children now. And we've discussed with our children what he did.
And so there's a lingering memory of what happened 20 years ago as well, you think, as some anger about the current situation?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Have you talked to many other folks about these attitudes? Is this something being discussed?
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, there's no reason he needed to be where he was except to rub it in people's noses.
well, let's ask him, were you accidentally in Hamilton County, or did you choose to be there as a matter of principle?
No. I chose to be there because Cincinnati was the only city of his size that was not selling the products I published and produced. And I felt that that was wrong, and the prosecutors were doing this through intimidation and prior restraint, and that if I was really serious about fighting this First Amendment battle, I should be willing to do it there in Hamilton County.
Aaron from California. Are you with us, Aaron? Aaron, are you present? Aaron from California, are you there? Well, I guess Aaron from California is not.
Ray, the adult material is sold a few minutes north of Cincinnati, south of Cincinnati, west of Cincinnati. It's just that one little...
Why is that a pocket?
One little pocket of Hamilton County that they want to put you in jail for selling obscene material, as they call it.
Any sense of why Cincinnati has had this unique set of values, unique attitudes?
Well, it's been this way for as long as I can remember.
Like you said earlier,
it's been the same group of people who
Charles
have been in
Keating.
power.
Charles Keating used to head up a decency group there in Cincinnati. He's one that really got the ball rolling back 20-some years ago.
Well, listen, it's interesting to have you as guests. We certainly respect the fact that you're willing to put your liberty on the line for principle. We have to be neutral as journalists, but I can't help but wish any defendant good luck in a fair trial in any event.
Thanks.
And we hope you'll come back and talk to us after the trial, during the trial, any other time.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for our preview of the obscenity trial of Larry Flynt. Because jury selection begins on May 10th, we expect you'll be here with us watching the trial once we get past that phase of it. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll have the latest from Littleton, Colorado.